You are listening to Failed State Stories, featuring long-form and medium-form stories ripped from the pages of Failed State Update. Today's story is, Would You Buy a Vaccine Exemption? From Gerald Celente. Alex Jones's favorite futurist launches the Universal Church of Freedom, Peace, and Justice. By yours truly, Joseph L. Flatley. Besides tech evangelists, futurists are probably the most useless subcategory of whatever passes for public intellectuals in America these days. Paid to make vague predictions, these are the real-time chroniclers of the lies that the American establishment tells us to keep capitalism chugging along. And here I'm just talking about the respectable ones, like Michio Kaku and Ray Kurzweil. Gerald Celente, who founded the Trends Research Institute in 1980, is a little bit different than his futurological peers. Gerald Celente, according to Gerald Celente, not only predicted the fall of the Shah of Iran in 1979, but was so impressed with himself for doing that he decided to go into business as a trends forecaster. In a few short years, he became the go-to guy whenever a journalist needed to dash off a story with a headline like, Top Trends for Fill in the Year, or Futurist Predicts Fill in the Blank. He's made a good living doing this sort of thing, which is impressive considering how many of his predictions fall flat. Here's one from his 1990 book, Trend Tracking: The System to Profit from Today's Trends, co-written with a professional bowler named Tom Milton.
The baby boomers got jobs, and got married, and had children, and some of their younger brothers and sisters became yuppies. But most of them didn't abandon the values of the 60s. They still want equal rights for people. They still oppose war. They're still concerned about the environment. They still care more about lifestyle than about money. And now that those at the leading edge of the baby boom are in their 40s, they're in a position to implement their values.
I find this quote interesting, not only because it's so wrong, but because it highlights the nature of futurology. Corporations hire futurists like Gerald Celente to tell them stories that make them feel better about where they're at today. I spoke to Celente at the tail end of 2012. I probably said that I was working on a top trends for the year 2013 story, although I was really just fishing for something fun to write about. At the time, I didn't come up with anything, but I did receive a free subscription to his Trends Journal newsletter. I recorded the conversation for posterity, and I'll play you some clips from it. He began by explaining the art and science of trends forecasting.
Gerald Celente.
Hi, Gerald. This is Joe again.
Hey, Joe.
Thank you for being patient. And so I feel like a lot of our readers maybe won't recognize the name Trends Research Institute right off the bat. So could you kind of tell us what you're doing?
Well, I'm the director of the Trends Research Institute, but I'm also a publisher of the Trends Journal,
Okay.
which is a quarterly magazine. And what we do is we look at over 300 different trend categories. Anything from the environment to business to culture to art to technology, geopolitics, always with the understanding that all things are connected. So in looking at the current events forming future trends, rather than taking a one-dimensional view of issues, such as economics, and only looking at economic data, we look at all of the interrelated data that affects economics. So it could be changes in the family, changes in the environment, geopolitical changes. All things are connected, or as Chief Seattle is alleged to have said, all things are connected like the blood which unites us all. And the scholar Friedrich von Schiller, he saw that in today already walks tomorrow. We're all doing in life what we're doing because of decisions that we've made.
He then said, no one can predict the future, but you can see the face of the future, which I'm still scratching my head over. Then I asked Gerald for an example of a coming trend for the year 2013. Peace, he says. Because if we don't have it, we're moving into the first great war of the 21st century. 10 years later, I can see now that I dropped the ball by not asking him to describe the first great war of the 21st century, but I guess it doesn't really matter. Gerald Celente predicts war with mind-numbing regularity, and will continue to do so until there is one. Then he'll brag about how he predicted it. In the meantime, we'll continue to get entertaining videos like one that just came out, titled, Bitcoin Bounce Declaration of War.
So the Dow closed down a little bit. They're still waiting for that Trump tax plan to see what it's going to bring. And you know what it's going to bring for we the little people?
That was bullshit.
That's right, man. It's Trump shit. Oh, I can say that because Trump said he was going to bomb the shit out of ISIS. And they put that on the news, so take it easy, man, because that's all this is. This is a rape against we the little people.
At this point in our conversation, I ask him if he thinks people will start agitating for peace in 2013. I wouldn't say agitating for it, he says. I would say ascending to it. And then Gerald begins to preach.
When people reach the higher levels within themselves and keep trying to attain higher levels each day, each moment, and each breath, till that happens, nothing is going to change. The individual has to change before the collective consciousness changes. When enough individuals change, then the collective consciousness changes.
Sure.
And then that, to me, is the only way. To look for leaders to lead. What kind of self-respecting person would do that?
All because we do not carry everything to God in prayer.
When we spoke in 2012, I didn't quite see the relevance of Celente's rap about higher levels and collective consciousness. He just sounded like another rich guy with a new age bent, which wasn't very interesting. So I thanked him for his time, hung up the phone, filed the recording away somewhere, and then forgot about it completely until the COVID-19 pandemic snapped his brain the same way that it snapped Van Morrison's brain and the brains of the two guys from Right Said Fred. If Gerald Celente forecasted one trend correctly in 2020, it was the political viability of undermining public health. Trend's journal referred to the pandemic as coronavirus 9/11, a hoax designed to spread terror and, quote, impose authoritarian controls on the sheeple who complied with the lockdown. The Trends Research Institute became a soapbox for Celente's increasingly cranky takes on America's ills. The one thing that separates Celente from the new crop of social media conspiracy influencers is the fact that he's loaded. Exactly how loaded, it's tough to say. A cursory Google search shows that he has all sorts of hustles. His page at the Executive Speakers Bureau lists his fee as 20 to 30 grand for one speech. Or you can get 30 minutes of coaching from him for $550. Whatever he's doing, it's working. In 2012, he started snapping up colonial-era real estate in his home of Kingston, New York. There are really only two ways to make money as a futurist. If you're highbrow, someone like Stuart Brand, you sell your services to corporations trying to understand the future in order to make a quick buck off of it. If that doesn't work out, you can go directly to the people, selling the promise of your so-called expertise, which may or may not exist. This is commonly referred to as an internet marketing scam. Celente's web presence implies the second category, but I can't really say for sure. Perhaps not as lucrative, but near and dear to his heart, Celente has started his own non-denominational church. Religion, of course, is the ultimate endpoint of the unrepentant egotist. The Universal Church of Freedom, Peace, and Justice holds the occasional rally in Kingston, New York, featuring sermons from such highly regarded religious leaders as Mark Crispin Miller, Paul Craig Roberts, and Judge Andrew Napolitano. Celente says there will be an open revolt, perhaps even a Civil War 2.0, if the American people don't rise up and reject the corrupt political establishment. He wants a peaceful revolution, and he believes he's the man to bring it. Perhaps more to the point, his Universal Church offers religious vaccine exemptions to those who donate $100 or more. Even if the revolution never comes, people like Gerald Celente can still make a quick buck explaining how it's right around the corner.
My body, my choice. Planned Parenthood, you're sellouts. My body, my choice when it comes to an abortion. Great, that's what you believe. But there you're selling your shit that you got to get vaccinated and it's not my body, my choice anymore? This is a church for a fight for freedom, a peaceful fight. The only ones that will be violent are the agents provocateurs that want to stop this. I am a peaceful man, but I will fight to my death for my freedom. No one will take it away from me. No one will take my freedom or my life away from me. I will fight for my life. And that's why I'm a close combat practitioner. I attack the attacker, and they've attacked me. This is Gerald Celente. Thanks for tuning in, and remember, you look at the cover of the magazine. It's there for you to see. We can unite. Join the Universal Church, freedom, peace, and justice. United we stand, divided we fall.
Wow. That was something, huh? Gerald Celente. I interviewed him in 2012, but I didn't really realize what I had until early this year. Hope you enjoyed the first ever episode of Failed State Stories. And be sure to check out the Failed State Update podcast, long-form interviews with interesting people. Once again, that's www.failedstateupdate.com.